Okay, and now we are live, putting up links in a couple places, and then we will get started on today's topics and roll the intro. Wait a couple seconds to get a few more people in here.
Oh, the lasagna.
Oh, the lasagna.
Lasagna's. I haven't made lasagna in this apartment. I've lived here for 3 years.
Isn't it nice that we're back though now? We were gone last week. Is everything up? We all good? No crazy frozenness.
Eat this up. Hey, you're almost at 9K.
Hey, look at that. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. They said they were going to get back to me on monetization approval by the end of the month.
Nice.
And then I can be like, ooh, $2. Yeah.
Okay.
Finally.
Here we go. So I'm going to roll the intro since we got some people here, and then we will get on with it.
Okay, people stop asking for Newshead. I never want to see that thing again.
I love Newshead. Newshead will be back.
Can go to hell.
I believe in Newshead.
This grid is seeming a lot less smooth right now.
Yeah, it's probably frozen.
I hate it.
And also, this, Hi-Fi Guides. We're starting to put this in our videos because it's kind of sort of a sponsor and kind of sort of not. It's a side project we worked on that is a tool to help people pick out headphones. For example, if I clicked on these results between these prices, it would tell me what I can possibly get. So let's say I want something. It's very much in its early stages, but it's a tool to both help people pick things out and help when we can't always answer everyone's questions. So if you feel like it, check it out. Hi-Fi Guides will be in the video description. So today's subject is going to be streaming services. Spotify, Google Play Music, Tidal, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, whatever else you're into. And not only how they are, I guess, benefiting, but also how they're possibly hurting different industries. And not just from the perspective of consumers, but from the perspective of content creators. So, I guess a good way to get into that is straight up music streaming services. The biggest benefit that I've heard of so far is that the industry prefers it over your typical pay per song services, is because you can actually very easily combat things like piracy that way. Simply with convenience. I mean, I'm sure you guys know how much more convenient it is.
Piracy is mostly... Piracy started because it's really inconvenient to do it any other way.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to go to a store and buy a Blu-ray, or go to a Redbox machine and get... Or, you know, I could just hit download, take a crap, come back, and then watch the movie with no ads, no FBI warnings, and I could jump to the middle, and then I never have to do that again. It's convenience. So you make something more convenient, people will use it. Even if they have to pay for it, they'll use it.
Yeah, we're kind of in this weird space, though, where, like, the topics that we cover are really specific on quality. And I think that, you know, the streaming services, yes, they don't technically offer the best quality, but it's a whole lot better than torrents. So from quality perspective, it makes more sense to go towards streaming music rather than going to like a Dimple Records. Are those even still around?
I just realized something. I had the title set in the intro to Microtransactions and DLC. That's not actually the subject of this episode. That might be the subject of the next one. We'll see.
That's another topic. We could definitely talk about that one.
Yeah, we'll see if we might get into that. I was going to do that one maybe this week, maybe next week, but I forgot to change it in the intro. But that was, oops.
Another thing that I like is, like, I do these Google Play videos where I go through a playlist of testing music and have different things, but I can share those with people. I can link the entire playlist to you guys, and you can go check out what I'm listening to. And if you have that paid service, then it's really simple. And you don't have to go.
Even if it's not paid, I mean, you could just make a Spotify playlist and put it out there. You could share your likes and tastes.
Oh, can you? Oh, I don't use Spotify, so I wouldn't know. But I'm sure you can do that with Tidal, with Spotify, with, you know, whatever else is out there.
All right, you can make a 60s jams. You can put it publicly and put it public. You can have 200,000 people who follow that playlist because you've got good taste and good choice.
Right. So is there a benefit to Spotify over Google Play that you guys know of? Because a lot of people use it.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. At this point, it's a lot of UI things. Spotify does have a very easy to use UI, and it does get some things before other platforms. For example, that J. Cole released a new album on 420, and it was on Spotify before it was on Google Play Music or Tidal or any of that stuff. And it was like a couple days or something like that. But still, some people that matters quite a lot. But their UI is very, very good.
Yeah. I'm not sure about actual like proprietary music to Google Play, but I do know that they definitely support a lot of the smaller artists. Like there's stuff that I haven't been able to find anywhere that I can find on Google Play.
I'm curious as to what streaming service pays their artists the best.
Well, can you buy songs on Spotify, or do you just pay for the?
You pay for the streaming service.
You can do the streaming service, but you can also purchase songs.
Here we go. I'm pulling up a list of what all the services pay their artists.
Spotify has, I don't know if you can download, I know I can download music encrypted. So you can't just download it and then you have it forever. But in Spotify, with my premium that I had 1 month of non-premium. The ads got annoying. The library was good enough that I said, all right, I'm going to pay you $10 a month. This is after I paid for Tidal for 2 years, and then realized I paid over $300 to a service that I barely use because, frankly, the library is not big enough. But, yeah, Spotify will let you, like if you're going to go someplace or you're going on a road trip and you have a playlist you like with 100 tracks, it'll download those tracks to your device and let you play them off there.
Wow.
So you don't get to keep them, but you get to, like, dig them up.
So
Google
check this
Play
out.
will do the same thing, but it's only for mobile, and it's encrypted. I've tried to pull them off of my phone onto the computer, and it won't let you. It's proprietary to Google Play.
So check this out.
Basically, it sounds like they all do the same thing.
They do not pay artists much. It drops a lot. So Tidal pays 1.1 cent per play. Okay, Apple Music plays 0.7 of a cent per play.
Perfect.
And Google Play Music pays 0.5 of a cent per play.
Well, what about find out how much they're paying for the downloads, though, or for the purchases, though?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Balance out.
It could actually. The one that pays the most is actually Groove Music at 2.7 cents per play, and behind that is Napster. At
That's because nobody uses
1.6 cent per play.
Napster.
Dude,
I'm the real Napster, man.
Napster. That brings back heartbreak. Just heartbreak.
Wow. Spotify's executives earn 7-figure salaries, but they're paying their artists that little.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the deal.
Here's the deal, though. Every large company.
If I start a company, I want to be paid 7 figures. I'm not in the. If you are really in it for the artists, then you're in it for the artists. But if there's 4 of you and the whole thing runs itself and there's just techies, I want to have a yacht. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I think that here's the thing about being a CEO, and I know you guys know, and this is kind of just for people who haven't thought about it this way. But if you're one dude doing like all the work, you are only allowed, let's say, 16 hours out of the day you could work maximum before getting a full 8 hours rest. If you're in charge of 10 people, all of a sudden that 16 hours becomes 160 hours. And then, if you're in charge of 100 people, all of a sudden that becomes, 1,600. So the higher up you are in a company, the more reaction you have for that entire company, depending on how many people you have under you. Mm-hmm. And your decisions are more what you get paid for than your actual work. So when you're able to affect the total like net output of an entire company just by making a couple of decisions, if that benefits the company, I totally think a high salary is worth it.
Right.
Also, you got to keep in mind, especially with a tech company, you start with a tech company, even if it's something that looks like it's going to be great, you have a short lifespan. Do you think Spotify is going to be around in 10, 15 years?
Fuck no.
You think AOL thought it was going to be around forever?
I don't know, man.
If I start up a tech company and I see I can make millions, I'm going to make as many millions as I can, because in 4 or 5 years, gone. Now, I should be doing the same thing with my YouTube channel. I should be lying and making all sorts of bad decisions. Or actually, I'm sorry, I should be making all sorts of good decisions to try to stuff my bank accounts before, YouTube collapses or everyone starts hating me. I don't do that, which is probably a fucking poor business decision. I just start being honest, and then whatever happens, happens. But, if it's going to stop. These streaming servers, you want to talk about something, let's talk about longevity. Let's talk about ones that have shown up, how long we think they're going to last, how long they're going to be able to maintain that.
I think streaming services in general, as like a whole, is going to be around for a long time, because it's an excellent concept. You just pay a subscription, you get access to a large library. I think that's definitely the future of content consumption as a whole. So I don't necessarily think that these streaming platforms are going to have a particularly short lifespan. I think that they're going to be around for the long run.
I don't know, because think about like something that, for example, like let's say YouTube opens up a streaming service, which I've heard that they're planning on doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then let's say you get a bunch of proprietary artists to be like, all right, let's just go only to YouTube.
One little correction. When you say YouTube, you mean Google. Google owns YouTube. So even though Google has a streaming service, they're going to open up competition to their own service because they'll take more pieces of the market.
Right. But I mean, like YouTube website specific streaming service, not a Google owned service. I mean, it is Google owned, but it's a YouTube branded streaming service.
Oh, there is YouTube Music. That's been around for a while.
Has there?
Yeah. YouTube Music is something that's included with YouTube Red.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I think that just uses Google Play, right? Because that's how my deal came, because I bought YouTube Red and it came with Google Play.
Yeah,
Anyways,
you can also...
I'm just trying to make a point, though, where you have people who are already on the largest website in the world, and they have access to make a streaming playlist, whatever, from there, and they don't have to go anywhere else. It's all included in one big price. You get like this good deal. Then for the average listener, like, why would you go anywhere else? And so that's going to subtract from all these. Just take one large player and it could wipe the board for everybody. Maybe not, but
I think we want to talk about something. Here's a whole topic for an entire podcast. Who the hell is the average listener? Because I mean, as far as I know, I think even my father, I'm trying to think of people who don't listen to music in my life, like who I know. Right. I don't know. My father used to listen to music, used to listen to the radio, hasn't in a long while. My mother, very rarely, but that's it. Like, I'm talking about older people. Sometimes they're the ones that listen the most.
Listen to music at all. Yeah.
So, I mean, the average listener is going to be people probably under 50. Under 50. I mean, kids are all listening to music, but they're all listening to it. They don't really count. Sorry, children, you don't count. If you're listening to this, why are you listening to this fucking podcast?
You know, there's also something to take into consideration. That's the quality of your streaming services, too. Like, Apple Music and Tidal are both technically what they call lossless streaming.
Yeah, but, like, again, the average listener doesn't give a shit about that.
That's true, but Apple Music, while it's a lossless streaming service, does have a crap ton of users.
Yeah, to get to the main point of what the question was how long are these going to stick around? I think streaming services as a whole will be around for the very far foreseeable future. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't see what it could really evolve into.
I think, here's the thing. I think we're far enough at a point now where it's no longer competing services. I think enough of them are big enough now that they have enough lawyers and there's enough corruption that they could just stay there.
It's a battle of convenience.
It's like YouTube. Yeah. It's the same as YouTube. It's like, oh, YouTube's making all these blocks. There's going to be competition. No, there's not. It won't happen.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because we're at a point where the companies and the individuals of today are so much more powerful than any company that's ever existed. It's not even funny.
Do you want a better example of what I'm talking about than MySpace? Nobody uses MySpace. But that was back in a day when things were happening and a competition showed up and people would actually move. No one's leaving Facebook now. They own too much of it. They could destroy anything that comes up that even remotely reminds them of, unless it's coming from one of the big ones, like Google tried Google Plus. So streaming services are going to be the same way. there might be a new streaming service. Tidal was like the underdog newcomer, and Spotify had been out for a while. And Tidal's like, we're going to do lossless, and we work right with artists, blah 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 blah. And they charge more, but it wasn't as good. They didn't have what it took. And then the rap stars took over Tidal, which I'm glad they had money and I'm glad they had support. But
Google
that's
Play,
not
too.
why I joined Tidal. It was like all of a sudden I was getting recommended like rap songs, and that's not why I joined a lossless streaming service. I want those crazy high fidelity, tracks you don't see everywhere else. And then I want to listen to every AC/DC track losslessly, and then crazy audiophile stuff. And they just weren't getting the big, like the names. They weren't getting them. They're either being very, very obscure, but not enough of it, and then not enough mainstream music. To just, I want to have everything. I don't want to have to look. I don't have that song. I don't want to ever have to have that.
Do you guys know how Vine died?
No.
So Vine, I'm assuming everybody knows what Vine was. If you don't, quick rundown is they just did really brief 6-second videos, I think. Vine died right before it got super, super, super big in terms of users, because Instagram just decided to do the same fucking thing Vine was doing. And then people didn't have to go from Instagram to Vine to do the same thing. They just had to stay on Instagram. And literally, like within, I think it was 6 months or a year after Instagram did that, Vine closed down shop because they just took all their users. So we're at a point where companies are so quick to act and so powerful and have such a large audience that when they decide, like to go back to the YouTube analogy, if YouTube decides to open up a streaming service that's YouTube branded, they may just be able to suck everybody from another platform just because they don't have to go anywhere. It's not guaranteed, but it is possible.
I mean, well, here's the thing. YouTube and Google are technically one and the same when it comes to their streaming services.
Yeah, it's all Alphabet, right?
Yeah. But really, this is a battle of convenience, because the biggest issue with streaming services versus just regularly purchasing music is convenience. It's all a battle of convenience. So a streaming service will die out when someone comes along with something more convenient. That's what's going to kill it, is something more convenient.
Right. Well, eventually you're going to start seeing a mixture of streaming services for both videos, for personal use, movies, music, and then social media. And once you get something that has all 4 of those pillars, they're just going to dominate. And as it's going, it's probably going to be Google.
I reject your situation, and I'm going to put this in there. I think people, as much as you think like an all-in-one, like a Swiss Army knife is going to take it, I think people somehow don't want that. And I'll use Patreon as an example, because we had Kickstarter, and Kickstarter wasn't smart enough to make Patreon. They realized we should collect money for projects. They just didn't realize maybe we should spread out that money collection and constantly give it. Like, that's like a real simple concept that Kickstarter had the backbone to put in and didn't. But now, YouTube, way late to the party because they're massive, decides to put in their own Patreon like what's it actually called, Marks?
It's like sponsoring or something like that.
Yeah, whatever, sponsoring. And that, I think I asked on a live stream to my 200 people that were watching it, would you rather do that or stay on Patreon? And they'd rather stay on Patreon because it's what it specifically is for.
Well, and people
when
actually
YouTube
trust
comes
Patreon.
out and adds like a yes, I think it's
no one trusts
trusting.
YouTube.
I used to think that Google was like the greatest company on earth, and then that stopped like a long time ago.
Yeah,
but
we also have, like, all 3 of us, so we also have very specific audiences.
That's true.
Not specific as in like who we target, but the individuals who make up our audiences are what I would consider to be specific individuals.
We have people special right to their face.
I didn't say special.
I know you said specific.
You ain't freaking special. No, but we have people who care about the details and the quality of something, and that makes up the larger portion of all of our audiences, I'm assuming. So we have a different, most people use social media, all forms of social media, streaming services, all that stuff, in passing. I think that all 3 of us luckily have a more active and engaged audience than what would be the average user of any social media platform.
Right.
So I think for you asking your audience what they want to do, I think you already have a built-up audience that has a certain I don't want to say expectation, that's not the right word, but a certain way of living.
Yeah,
that isn't necessarily.
That's not. If I said who likes grilled cheese, and if I like grilled cheese, then I'm all going to say that I like grilled cheese. But who's blasting me out of their headphones so I can hear an echo? It's mildly annoying.
That might be
it's
me.
Yeah, probably. This is why push to talk is superior.
SHBs. Hold on.
Oh, them ships are loud, bro.
Yeah.
You don't need to hear me that well. But what we're talking about, I think from a perspective, I don't want, like, I used to think Reddit was the only place I needed to go because it had everything I needed on the internet. Oh, I want to talk about cars, so I go to the car, whatever the slash are cars, or I go to headphones, or girls who sit on your lap and dress like Santa Claus. That's all at Reddit. But you know what? It sort of becomes, it's like a Swiss Army knife. My cousin swears by his Swiss Army knife, but his knife isn't that sharp, and his corkscrew isn't as good as just having a corkscrew, and he's got the little pliers in there, but you're better off having fully fledged out separate entities doing these things that don't have one mindset behind. Because when you have, like, okay, let's say Google
I have one big counter argument to that. Cell phones.
Cell phones, yes. But here's the thing. I love that we still call them cell phones and not something completely different, like portable computers.
Right.
Because a computer's a computer.
It's more a computer than a cell phone now.
The fact that my cell phone can make a phone call is like the last thing I give a shit about.
It's like the simplest codec in the entire code.
It's like I make Telegram. My phone is 95% Telegram just to talk to all my friends and family and look at nasty, dirty things, and then I have 5% of taking pictures with it. So basically,
it's like calling a Ferrari
camera. Yes, it's like calling a Ferrari like a chair. Belt. It's just a chair. Massaging seat function.
Sydney Michelle, if you go to my channel, I already have some playlists up. So if you want to go check those out, go ahead.
There you go.
Go ahead.
I'll put one up at some point, just haven't done it.
I can't read the chat. I should have the chat open.
You know, when it comes to streaming services, this is kind of a side subject, but it is nice to have some things that are integrated because I hate the fact that I have to have multiple streaming services to get the music I want. Like, I have Google Play Music because it comes with YouTube Red, and I don't see any point in paying for another streaming service, but Google Play Music is not lossless. So it comes down between Tidal and Apple Music, which is a pain. It's a total pain. And very frequently on a lot of these platforms, they remove artists and remove songs and put other ones on, and it's inconsistent. Like, music that is in my library at one point will just disappear.
That exactly what you said, except move to TV shows and movies.
Yeah.
If I'm going to join a streaming service like Netflix, and they have my favorite movie on it, why would it ever not be there from now to the end of time? And the reason is because someone else signed a contract that, you can't have it on the same time as Hulu's do, and that's just
that's why I canceled Tidal though.
I think they like to cycle their audience, or not their audience, but they like to cycle the movies because it brings in a larger audience, because they can bring up, like, let's say, somebody gets out of college in 6 months, they're going to be paying more attention to Netflix than they would while they're slammed with work. So they take a popular movie 6 months ago, recycle it 6 months later, bring in another person. Does that make sense?
Yes and no.
Because, like, there aren't that many movies out there that are, like, in the mainstream that
if I'm gonna pay for a service where I can stream any movie and TV show, then I want to stream every movie and TV show with no interruptions ever again. And it doesn't exist, so I don't pay for streaming services.
How much would that be worth to you? $100 a month? Less, more?
I think it should be a flat rate and then depend on usage. Because I would pay like a $20 to $25 a month, and then you get 10 movies a month and 10 TV shows a month, and they don't charge you anymore. But if you're a hound, if you're a bandwidth hound, and you're like every day 5-6 movies, I think then they can start charging you 50 cents maybe for a TV show, maybe $1 a movie, and then it'll work it up. Because it's like you just need to maintain the service, and then because it's all about bandwidth now, and it's about getting charged for bandwidth. So yeah, I think I would pay a keeper fee to just have an account, have a certain number of movies, and then just if I go nuts one month, maybe it's an extra $1 or $2. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. You know, a good example of what you were saying earlier, Z, about having separate entities is that YouTube actually has, a streaming movie service where you can buy movies for rent or purchase for pretty cheap. Like you can rent, I'm just looking on here now. You can rent like some movies are like $15. Some movies are like $3. Guardians of the Galaxy is $3 to rent. But nobody uses YouTube as a movie streaming service, and that kind of goes to your point of having like separate things.
People go to YouTube and like, oh, YouTube does movies, but no one's programmed to like. I think it's some inner human thing where people do not want to be in the same spot for everything. As much as you think they want that convenience, like you said, cell phones, right? Carrying around cell phones. Yeah, but that's physically carrying it around. And I still will take a portable music player around with me, or I will take a Bluetooth receiver, a big heavy box, like the Theo Q5, and I'll let that sit in my pocket and my phone sit in my other pocket. And it'll still be streaming to it because that is a better headphone. And it's less convenient, but it sounds better than plugging it into my phone. So it's a matter of it's convenience versus quality. And just like the Swiss Army knife, if I need a knife, I do not want the knife of a Swiss Army knife. I want a knife. And even if I don't have a corkscrew that day, I'll take it to have a better knife. So even if I don't have, certain amounts if I don't have the convenience of being able to support someone on YouTube, but I'll still go to Patreon and do that. I don't know. I'd have to write a dissertation on it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just think it comes down to an individual basis. Like who wants to have everything in one place versus different places, Like, well, actually, this is a great thing for the comments. Would you guys rather have all your services in one area or in separate areas?
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. I guess it just depends on what the masses want also.
Yeah.
Because there will always be people who are straying from, whatever everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
There's not always going to be one service.
Use iTunes, but I think all three of us don't even have iTunes downloaded on our computers.
I think DMS does because he said he uses it.
I do actually have iTunes on my computer because that's the only thing I can use to sync files onto my phone.
You dirty whore.
He has an iPhone. Get the hell rid of that phone, man.
This is a terrible phone.
Doug DeMuro films every one of his videos. He has a 1.4 million subscriber channel, and he films car videos with an iPhone on a tripod and an iPhone in his hand, and it's just an iPhone. I'm just like, you know what? Yeah. iPhone takes damn good video. That's all I had to say about it. The point is,
there's a guy who's making a full feature film with an iPhone only. I mean, he's got like tripods and stabilizers and stuff, but like the camera is an iPhone. It's nuts.
I think they sell like a stabilized gimbal of a ball, and it's just an iPhone like camera basically built into that. It's way too much money, just like everything Apple is way too much money.
The DJI.
The DJI. It might be the DJI Mavic or whatever it was.
No,
I mean,
that's the only reason that I like. Oh, I've got iChat. My whole family's on it.
Phone video is okay. It's better than cameras were several years ago. It's better than cheap cameras and action cameras. It doesn't come close to mirrorless cameras or DSLRs, though.
Yeah, but that's not the point. Like here's the thing: when somebody looks at iPhone footage, if it's filmed in good lighting, which takes half a second to set up, and just pick your angles, the average person isn't going to think, "Oh, does that quite have the same dynamic range as like a Canon 80D?"
Oh no, but I mean, like
it's average people.
It's definitely like easy, really easy for the average person to see, like sharpness and detail and things like that.
So, they look passable enough, and honestly, for certain areas like dynamic range and lens stability, my iPhone is better than my DSLR. For quality of color, for the quality of the pixels, I don't think it quite adds up. But you're talking about a $750 body alone that is just a camera versus something that does phone calls, goes on Twitter, does all this other shit. And I can just pull it out of my pocket, use it, put it back in, and never have to worry about it again. And it's automatic. Like, they're phenomenal cameras. Probably the best camera you can buy for under $1,000, especially considering that you can just take the footage that you just shot and edit it on that device.
I mean, you
Like,
can get
they're
an
really
EOS
wonderful.
M for $250 though, and that'll kind of crap on it.
What? An ESM?
Yeah, the EOS M body.
Oh, the EOS. Okay, got it.
Yeah, like an
I know what
EOS
you mean.
M, a little
They're
Canon
talking about
mirrorless.
cameras, and as long as if it doesn't strap to my head, I don't care. So
You could strap an EOS M to your head, but you know what? You should strap to your head one of Canon's micro cameras or one of Blackmagic's micro cameras, because that'd be pretty awesome.
HiFiGuides.com. Just put
There
it
you
right
go.
into a goddamn
Plug.
a full-fledged plug.
Plug it.
Yeah, speaking of which, it's 30 minutes in, and if you haven't checked out HiFiGuides.com, please do that, because that keeps us both with food on the table, which is nice.
We're trying to make it so DMS doesn't die of starvation.
It'd be great.
That is most people's main goal.
Fantastic. We do need to get to talk to that code. We could. I want to make sure it needs to get up to the spec of where I imagine it being.
Yes.
Because I really wanted to I
Well,
wanted to replace like the guides that I
We have a
made.
developer now, and we are going to start working with him. We just got to get a little bit of paperwork set up, and then it's going to be off the races from there, and it shouldn't be long before Hi-Fi Guides is up to spec. But for now, it's an early version. We're still testing some things out, but it is still operational enough that it helps support the channel. So, there you go.
And we'll keep adding to it, just like I was doing on my. I do have to update my guides regardless, though. And
Oh yeah,
there's
we're
been
always
so
going to be
much.
adding to it.
That's the thing. That's the reason I like Hi-Fi Guides, and the concept of it is because when people look at my guides, it's going to get real gnarly with like 100 headphones to pick from, which is the same as going to Amazon and typing in headphones.
Yeah,
So
that narrows it
I
down a
always
lot.
I used to have nice and small and laid out like this. These are the 6, and now it's just there are too many good headphones. It's what it comes down to is there's too many good headphones. So it's not like I could just say, oh, if you want a good headphone, get this. I have to get so specific with what people need, and that's another thing. We're talking about streaming services. What do people want lossless? And I say people as in the grand scale of how many users does Spotify have? Do we know this number? Do we know what the number of people Spotify actually the streaming from Spotify have?
I'll look it up.
Yes, people who, even though I have a giant computer monitor and I'm literally watching them make a giant key on an Imager, someone else do this.
Do 140 million.
Okay, so 140 million people are on Spotify. How many of those people do you think even have heard the word lossless?
Oh man.
Probably not that many.
Yeah,
then
and out of
how
that,
many- do you think 10? Do you think 10 million?
I heard the word lossless. Yeah,
Heard
sure,
and
10
understand
million.
what the word lossless means.
I'd say 5 million, and of that, maybe 2.5 actually give a shit, and of that, maybe 50% of them actually listen to Spotify for the lossless.
wait, Spotify doesn't have lossless.
on Spotify.
Oh, okay, whatever.
There's
I
there's-
don't know.
there's
I think
high-
that-
like I think people are interested in quality. I think when Spotify puts a bullet point next to pay for the premium and you got hi-fi streaming, they have no idea what that means. They
I
just
think a
know
lot of
it's
people know what
hi-fi.
lossless means. I don't know if a lot of people know exactly. I don't think a lot of people care in terms of audio, but I think a lot of people know what lossless means because that's a very common term in video. And video is a very, very big industry. A lot of people in video care very much about their quality.
I don't think it's as big as people think.
I think you are in the industry and therefore you think that, but I am not in the industry and I don't think any. Like, first of all, lossless video is like that isn't even a thing as far as I can.
Like,
Right, but there's
I'm a
lossless
photographer,
codecs.
right? I don't know a single other photographer in my personal life. Actually, that's not true. I know one other photographer in my personal life.
I mean, I've probably met like a couple hundred other video guys in person and then seen like there's tons and tons of channels that have, 5, 6, 7, 8 million subscribers that are nothing about like video tips on how to get better video quality out of your production. So I'd say that there's a crap ton of people who know about lossless as a term just in general because of that specific industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely because I'm in the industry. I think that it's growing, but at the same time, I also feel like it's not.
I think there are more
It's
people
not
that work at
huge.
Chipotle that know what lossless is, and like
How many
that's
fucking people work at Chipotle?
that's a stat. I don't know. Let's let the group chat look at that up. But my point is, 140 million people. The word lossless, and we're all talking about streaming services. The only way that we get the lossless is if they charge a whole lot more for it.
Chipotle does not have that many employees.
Chipotle, whip it out.
Chipotle employs 64,000 people.
Oh wait, okay. I know how I can check this. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Alexa, how many people work at Chipotle?
Okay, so
64,570 people are the employees at Chipotle.
I didn't hear what the number was. What was the number? I'm not asking again.
Let's take another word. So let's say, take another take a photography word. What would be a photography word? Like aperture? Aperture. Okay.
Yeah. Shutter stop.
Let's see. I'm gonna find something. I have an idea on how we can gauge this.
I'm just looking at Google's word usage calculator, or not calculators, but graphs of using, because it tells you how often a word's been used and when it was used most popular or most often.
Yeah, if we search for lossless under that would help.
Yeah, I am. So as of 2010, the height of the word aperture was actually in 1836, and it's saying that it's approximately 0.009 to so on. And I'm not sure what that.
You know who's going to love this podcast? Accountants.
Oh yeah, there you go.
These numbers are just coming at them, and they're just going to sleep to them.
64,000. What is that? How many people work at Chipotle?
I found something. Yeah, that's how many people work at Chipotle. I found a really weird website that doesn't tell you the number of searches on something, but tells you the value of a search term. So Apple lossless, that search term is worth $5,744.
Okay.
I don't know why, but that's what this website says.
How much for aperture? Probably a lot more, I assume.
Let's see. I have to complete another CAPTCHA.
Oh dear.
Holy mother of God, 103,950.
For the word aperture, huh?
Yep.
All right. So speaking of
searching things now, this is great.
Values for money, I think we should hop onto that DLC bandwagon.
Yeah, we could. We probably have another half hour left in the podcast. We might as well, since we're on the.
We were gonna. You had lists like, all right. We'll do a quick rundown. We do DLC. Do you think that a streaming service that you're paying monthly for should also charge you for something else? Like, oh, you got Hulu, but if you want to watch this movie now, it's $3 more. Because I am not.
Never.
I mean,
no.
Because I even though I said I would pay, you asked me if I had this service, would I pay? And I'm saying absolutely. If I had this, I want 10 free and then more. But I was already willing to pay $25. If you're paying, less than that, I don't ever want to have to pay any more.
That's part of the reason why I think cable is becoming outdated, because you pay for a bunch of channels that you watch, and then you also pay for on-demand services. And I think that, just based off that, Netflix is way more, I guess ergonomic would be like the term. I think it's much more comfortable to use, and it makes sense. DLC and microtransaction, though, we were going to talk about that in the sense of games and several other things, but a lot of games and other things are leaning towards the implementation of releasing incomplete content and patching it up with DLC, and also incorporating microtransactions for in either progressive game content or in-game content.
Nobody plays like I'm gonna go back to Half-Life 2, which is like 500 decades old, and that was like a game. It came out, people paid for it, people paid for the orange box, and they played it and they were done. Everything now is essentially like, okay, what's our profit margin per week of people? It's just the problem is when money gets involved and money is in games, things start changing. It's actually changing the shape of gaming.
Well, longevity is more important in games. Like now, before a AAA game could last you, you could beat it in a day and be like, wow, that was a great game. If you just ground out the whole thing. And now if you can beat a game in a day, people are like, wow, that's just stupidly short. I need a game that I can play for months and months and months and never finish. And a lot of DLC and microtransactions is apparently, and this does make sense to a certain extent, oriented towards longevity for these games. And apparently microtransactions is a way to fund that and fund further development. Now, it comes down to an ethics thing, though. Like, I don't mind microtransactions when it's for strictly aesthetic additions. But when you are gaining, like, pay-to-win items or things that are going to actually give you an advantage, I think that at that point it becomes unethical and is not benefiting the community.
I agree with that. But regarding the paid DLC for, like... So let's take this off of multiplayers for a second and move this on to single player.
Okay.
Let's say that you have I think it goes case by case, because there are certain games that have like the new Battlefront 2 has like a DLC that you can buy, I think. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I haven't checked on it since everybody blew up about it, and I played it for like a day and didn't really like it, so I stopped. But let's just say that, for an example, a single player game has a DLC that has new maps, new guns, stuff like that. I think it depends on the quality of the content, whether or not, and when it's released. If you release a DLC a month after you release the game, or even 2 months, or really even 3 or 4, I think it's like, okay, you already have that on the back burner and you know it. You just did, like, if you were to release it as an update, I wish it would have just been included in the cost. But if you take a game that has like a DLC that gets released like a year later because they were paying developers to make a full-bodied experience in the new DLC, I think it's worth it. But it's totally case by case. But regarding multiplayers, I think you said it like on the tee. Like, if it gives you a competitive advantage, no. If it's just for aesthetics and it's just personal preference, if you want to buy it, buy it.
Right, and even not just a competitive advantage, but just, say, unique items that function differently, that are typically unavailable unless they are behind a paywall. Or let's say, like, if you're doing like a big multiplayer game online and you do a raid, if you can buy the raid gear instead of just having to complete the raid, I think that's absolutely waste. I think that it should only be aesthetic items.
Yeah.
Regardless of how essential their function is, or the advantage they provide.
You want to talk about pay to win? I mean, the most pay to win game I ever played was when APB came back. It was APB Reloaded.
Oh, yeah.
And people would show up with gold whispers, which, if you don't know what a whisper is, it's a silent gun. How silent? Real silent. And how good is the gold one? Real good. And then there were hackers on top of that. So we would play games for 4 or 5 hours and never win, because flying magicians would come and murder us from the skies. And that was a great game, regardless of that fact. But we had to just stop playing because it was so pay to win. It was not even funny. Ridiculous, so there's a I don't want to pay to win with a streaming service. Going back to streaming services, whatever the title of the video is, I don't want to pay for it. I want to just win. You want to take my money for me? Fine. Give me everything. I don't want to have to argue. I don't have to find multiple things. Just give it to me, and that's it.
That's kind of what led to the downfall of, like, I'd say, like, Battlefront. There was a lot of controversy over that, over loot boxes. And Destiny, that's kind of what led to Destiny's current state of affairs, is they were releasing unfinished content and were filling the gaps and keeping the company alive with microtransactions. I hope that they change that. But
real quick, I want to Scott Smith, he says that's not DLC, that's an expansion pack. Is there a difference?
I mean, DLC just means downloadable content.
Yeah, like, shouldn't an expansion pack technically be considered DLC?
I think that'd be the same
now, whether
thing.
it's paid or not would be the difference. So I don't know what you mean by that. If you want to clarify that, buddy.
Fair.
And then where I said, I'm sorry to say it, but you should read and think way more about stuff you're saying before you say them and subjects you want to do. Well, I'm kind of relatively uneducated because I'm not really in the gaming community.
Rest in peace, Josh.
Like, competitively, like, I don't really give a shit. I don't buy DLC ever. The last downloadable content that I bought was was for Skyrim like years ago. So I'm not really sure what like the current state, but I do know that people are very upset about certain things being like, especially the pay to win things. People are very on the fence about that. And I don't know, like I just come at it from a standpoint of like, if it's a skin, like if all you're doing is remodeling something and adding like just changing stuff around in your like basically like what Call of Duty does. Take that for a perfect example.
Right.
If that is not worth my money, in my opinion. But if you're going to take something that really adds quality and time to the game and isn't just like a retexture and a slight readjustment of buildings, then I think it's worth it. But that's my opinion. And it's a weird line. It's totally personal.
I'm updating the title, by the way.
Did that make any fucking sense? Because it didn't make sense to me.
It made sense.
You're turning into a slight robot because Discord is a terrible app and I don't like it. But yes, a little bit, and the no a little bit, just a little bit.
I don't know. See, here's the thing. Like
we're pretty much in agreement.
The first Destiny game.
I think everyone is like kind of with the no pay to win, but skins are fine.
The first Destiny game was definitely incomplete when it launched, and I still loved the game. I paid for every single DLC that came out and don't regret it. I think by the time the game was over with, it was a phenomenal game. And I think that in some cases that is acceptable if you're willing to put in the investment, which I didn't have a problem with. However, I can definitely see why people over time were becoming very upset with that. Because DLC is not cheap. However, you are paying for the continuation, like every major expansion, like the Taken King or Rise of Iron, whatever, those were like an entirely new game on top of the game you already had. There's, a massive campaign added on top and all this other stuff. So you're basically getting another game for cheaper, another chapter. And in the continuation of a long-term storyline or trying to keep a franchise alive for a long time, it does make sense. However, I guess it just depends on what they're trying to do with it. If they're trying to patch holes or if they're actually trying to continue the experience.
Well, let me see if I can. I want to ask you guys this: on a DLC, would you rather that a company release a large DLC for, let's say, $20, and let's say it was 20% of a $60 game, right, in terms of quality of content, or would you rather have them release a second game?
I think what you're trying. What it needs is an expansion pack. Not calling it a DLC just means it's being downloaded. They used to sell like, here's the game. I want 100% of a game, and then if you want to throw an extra 25-30% of a game beyond the game, you charge me 25-30% of what you charge me for the game, and I'll pay that so I can play more.
Right.
And that's it. I don't want to have a broken game and then fix it with more stuff. It should just be a full game. I like it, then I'll buy more of it. I used to have Interstate 76, and the Nitro pack came out. It had more tracks, more cars. I'm dating myself real bad now. But, yeah, that was fine. I was 100% for that. If Rocket League came out and you bought it, and then there was a Rocket League, hyper pack that had 5 more car types and 3 more play styles and 6 more maps, I think everyone would be willing to pay another $10 to have all that.
Yeah,
because Rocket League is its own game and it's done. But if you were playing Rocket League and all of a sudden, you want to have your boost last 10% longer, that's 3 gold coins, and gold coins cost $1 a piece. That's not cool.
Right.
Okay.
Especially if you can play in games where other people don't have that stuff.
If we're all in agreement for that, what do you guys think about games like wasn't a big one a while ago, like Clash of Clans?
I never played it.
Well, the basic premise was that you could like earn a certain type of whatever the currency was, in-game currency, and then you could pay for upgrades for your shit, for your defenses and your attacks, right? Mm-hmm. But you could also pay real money to get in-game money to upgrade your shit faster. So is that pay to win, or is that I just don't want to wait and I'm willing to pay not to wait?
I play PlanetSide 2. I still play PlanetSide 2 because jetpacks. And you say jetpacks, I'm there. And there was you could legitimately earn certs paid for everything. And if you play the game, you'll earn a certain amount of certs for how many kill and have you completed engineering tests. And it was good. And it used to be back in the day, if you joined, every day you joined, you'd get like 10 certs just for free, just for joining. And that made me play the game every day. Every day, I got to go get my certs. My friend like, hey, you want to go get our certs? We'd all join the game. Maybe we play for 20 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, maybe for 4 hours. But we would get it, and then you could use that. Or you literally buy certs. Just buy them. Just straight up buy them. Now, they didn't like make you win, but you could afford a new gun that fires a little differently. Maybe the thing that holds a little bit steadier. You weren't guaranteed to win just because you have the best equipment in the game. Right. That's the difference. When you get something that's super overpowered, like you could do skins and those don't matter, and you could do vehicle mods to make your horn beat, and that doesn't matter. It was okay. I was okay. I actually subscribed for 3 months. Here's 3 months worth of my money, and I used to earn things faster. Because I just want to play with new weapons, and that was just easier way to play with new weapons. But the new weapons weren't guaranteed better weapons. Some weapons you get you don't have the playstyle for them, but you want to play them with them anyway. Right. So that's fine. That was a perfect system as far as I'm concerned. Nothing was insanely overpowered. You didn't get a gun that one shot at everybody from 1,000 yards, and you paid $10 for it. It just was different.
We're pretty much all in agreement on like every aspect of these.
Yeah. I just think it's kind of an interesting topic because I say this, and I might be a total hypocrite, but
totally,
it's hard to be like game companies shouldn't do this, because if you're a game developer and they're like, yo, you can earn double your money if you just put in 3 extra months of work and charge people $20 for this DLC. Like, I think it'd be so hard to say no to that.
True.
And yeah, you could have public outcry, and it does happen, but not nearly as often as DLC is actually output. Like, I think the last big outcry, again, I'm not in the gaming community, but the last big outcry that I was aware of was for the new Battlefront 2. And I think they may have taken that off, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, they did. They completely had to backtrack like a mofo. I mean, it's just, oh my God, they screwed up bad.
I mean, that's part of what went wrong with, like I said, the first Destiny, is the original game was incomplete, and things that were planned to be in the original game were instead put into DLCs, and there were things that were originally promised to the community to be in the base launch game that was locked behind a paywall. That's shitty.
Yeah, no. We agree game companies are shitty. That's a good podcast. I'm glad we did it.
There you go. Actually, you know what? We're closing in on like an hour, so I'd actually be comfortable ending it on that note right there.
So, what else we have to rehash anything? What did we actually talk about? I must have spoken about 4 minutes of this 1 hour podcast.
Yeah, streaming services.
I hate it all.
Okay, and microtransactions and DLC.
I don't agree.
There you have it.
One day, people, we will talk about lasagna and surfing.
Yeah, maybe one of these, I'll do a podcast where I have like multicam set up and I'm like making lasagna. And we'll talk about things while I'm making lasagna.
You're too skinny to be a cook. You need to have.
That is not true at all. I can cook things.
I don't know. That's not racism. That's
fat shaming. But opposite of fat shaming.
Skinny shaming.
Skinny shaming. Oh my God! Please let that be a thing. Have we started that? Have we started the fight?
I hope not. Dear God.
And on that note, we will see you next Wednesday.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Aww.